Good evening. It's Tuesday, the 1st of December, 2020. Diane Hans bringing you Book for the Day. Human Crossings, 9 stories about refugees. And today I'm going to be reading from the second story in this book, written by Brigitte Deneck. 1 + 1 = 1. Firstly, I'm going to read to you a little bit about Brigitte. I was born in Lille, France, and studied politics at the Institut d'Études Politiques de Paris. When unrest erupted in 1968, I joined the editorial team in the occupied higher education institution and provided information on what was happening in universities and in France socially as a whole. Later, I produced street theatre, which had the same purpose, to provide an insight into the events, help people understand and inquire. Further theatre studies led me to the United States and Poland, and I later specialised in a method of self-development through voice, which has been my main activity in the United Kingdom. I have translated from French a book about this method, Song of Self by Serge Wolfart. Keen to inform and inspire further, I joined the Writers' Empowerment Club created by Noha Nazer. When the idea of collective work came up, involving writing short stories on a topic of refugees, I saw this as a way to help people grasp reality through fiction. My story is grounded in real stories of real people and invites readers to consider what they ultimately stand for. So 1 + 1 = 1. Calais, December 2017. If I die, you continue. If I die, you continue. Their fists touched briefly. The pact was sealed. Through the cold, damp air, Ahad and Wahid ran towards the place where some of their friends had already gathered for a game of cricket. All were talking and laughing, stepping backwards and forwards, dancing with excitement. It took a little while to bring the teams together and for each to choose the first team batsman. And Waleed ended up in the same team. For 3 hours, bowlers came and went. Everybody went crazy when the scores tied at 70 for both teams. Super overs. They all forgot how exhausted they were and jumped in directions, throwing themselves on the ground, shouting, super over, super over. Each team huddled and started the negotiations to select the batsman. Ahad was chosen. Ahad's team needed 6 runs to win. He stood facing the bowler. The bowler ran up, hurled the ball at Ahad, and he hit it so hard, as hard as he could. The ball drew a perfect curve against the clouds. It seemed it would not end. They all gasped when the ball landed off the field. 6 runs! This time, the boys in the winning team started laughing and crying, embracing each other, flying towards each other, as if gravity was suddenly lifted. They formed the epicenter of a whirlwind. They moved in the direction of the sea, a swarm of birds evolving in different shapes against the background of sand, sea and sky. Some stopped in their tracks, standing on the cricket ground. Wahid remembered. He had crossed waters to arrive here. He remembered the Mediterranean, not the colourful, sunny, tourist-friendly beaches, but the waves that threatened to swallow rubber boats bursting with people of all ages. Wahid remembered one of the worst moments on the journey, walls of water around a rubber dinghy, holding 56 people, somewhere between Turkey and Greece. They had blown up the boat with 2 pumps from the box they had been given. One of the passengers had been instructed to steer. Men, women, families and young boys like him had climbed on the boat. They were now screaming their prayers. The newly trained pilot asked Wahid to help with pouring in the fuel in the tank. Immediately, the smell made him feel sick. He became unable to see and breathe among the spasms that shook his stomach. When Wahid opened his eyes again, he saw the shore. People, cars, everybody around him was screaming with joy. This time, he started praying. Now, there was another sea to cross. Why? Why not stay in France, where they had been for months? Some were now considering it. The process for claiming asylum sounded slow. When asked, their hearts sank. What came up at once was the image of the CRS, the French crowd control police, masked policemen armed with batons to break bones, tear gas to choke you before you spoke, blades to rip tents, grenades to make holes in shelters. From the cricket ground, Waleed followed those who walked towards the sea, their faces lit up in the afternoon light. They strode with their chest wide open, ready to jump into the unknown. And that's all for today. And tomorrow we'll hear some more of what happened to these 2 young men. 1 + 1 = 1. Thank you. You can find Human Crossings, 9 Stories About Refugees on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and it can be purchased on Amazon. Thank you. Diane Hans.